the cloud. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, record to the
Meeting is
cloud.
being recorded. All right, I'm recording now.
And you're the host, so
Okay. I'll watch the
That's on.
window.
Okay.
Oh. That's the microphone. Nobody here. Everything good? We're good? We're good? I'm recording.
Hold on, can I, here, I'm in. Can you talk?
Good.
Did you have to change the mic?
Please change itself.
Did it?
He just told me it did.
Okay, if you make me the co-host, I can let people in so that you don't have to worry about that.
See if I can
Because
figure out
I'm
how to do
already
that.
in and muted.
Where are you?
That's fine, just please.
Let me go to the three buttons. No. I'm going to go to.
Go to participants,
Yeah, participants.
Yeah. and then go to her name.
There you go.
And there you go.
Make the co-host. All right.
Thank you.
All right. All right, 6:09. That's what we got. Nobody, there's nobody on the Zoom. Everybody who's here is here. Got everybody's name?
Yeah.
All right. So it's 6:09. I'm gonna 6:10 now. 6:10. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Danville School Building Advisory Committee. We have one person who's in from the public who's going to participate, and so we're going to introduce ourselves around the room. I'm Clayton Cargill. I'm the board chair. Go this way.
I'm Molly Gleason, the clerk. Natalie Conway, secondary principal.
Sarah Welch, elementary principal.
Mary Beatty, no title.
Well, you're a member of the building committee. Come on, man.
Member.
Ballavey on the committee.
Out, Tim.
Tim Sanborn, board member.
Allison Estaffi, committee member.
Lance Horn, committee member. Max Steinhauer, public member.
That was Dave Toll. He's also a board member. He's taking a call.
Eric Hewitt, board member.
I'm Katie White, committee member.
The committee rejiggers just a little bit because Eric was a member of the committee as a committee member. Now he's a member as a board member. And then there's a couple other changes that are probably coming down the pipe that aren't official yet. So we're going to have to rejigger just a little bit. And then before we get moving, are there any additions or changes to the agenda for tonight? Sir.
The only item which is not on here or in here is your priorities, which you gave the architects.
So
Is it in this?
it's in
someplace?
their proposal. They
Okay.
have an idea of what we're going to do. You, Molly, and myself are going to talk about what we talked about
Okay,
in
okay.
that pre-meeting
Good.
as part of the discussion and the preamble to this presentation.
Okay.
Does everybody have one of these? You got email? So this is, and I'll go ahead and start. This is the first item on our agenda is, as you know, we got knocked back on money. We've been discussing what options we have and postulating some options as a group and postulating some ideas of how we wanted to identify what was valuable and what we wanted to spend our money on with regard to the building. And some of the things that we talked about in the moderated sessions with Beth, we talked about what would we do with X amount of dollars. And so then we set some lower goals for ourselves in terms of spending. And so then about a month ago, Rob, Molly, and I, as a subgroup of this group with the superintendent, met with Truex Cullens, the people that and we talked about this at the last meeting before we were going to do it. We said we were going to meet with them, and we met with them, and we had a lengthy discussion, about an hour and change, about where we were, about what our priorities seem to have been, based on these discussions in this room that have been going on for more than a year since those other discussions have happened. And one of the things that were probably the priority that we talked about most was not spending good money after bad, and not going after massive improvements on the 37 building and the 57 building. And so this is where we specifically started to talk again about, and so the conversation went from us, we don't want to make significant changes, but we want to make significant improvements if it's possible. And they said, you might end up with a lot of piping sticking on the outside of the walls instead of the inside of the walls, to which we said exactly. Right? Yes, that's sort of the pathway that we wanted to go down. And so what we asked them for was could we potentially work up and try to look at two separate types of proposals? Because we know what is not possible based on what we've seen before. And so we were gonna look at, see, what if we only could do the barest of minimums with a number on it? And this, I talked to Doug about this probably 18 months ago. Give them a number. Don't just tell them what, give them a number. So this is where I'm hearkening back to some of the stuff in these conversations, and I haven't forgotten what you said. And so this is, what if we had $10 million? And then the secondary one is, what if we had $20 million? And the counter from them was, you're going to leave a lot of things undone. And we said, we know. And they said, you're going to leave a lot of things undone that need doing. And we said, we know. And they said, it may be difficult to get you compliant. And we said, we know. And they said, there's no way to get this done without a building, because there's nowhere to put the kids. And we said, we know. And they said, and they didn't say, we know there's nowhere to put, it specifically has to be a preschool, but we all sort of know that already, that we have nowhere to put preschool kids if we have to move anybody. And so that's the first place we have to move anybody. And so what we asked for then this time, we're putting in a request for proposal with Truex, and we're saying, this is what we need. And so then in return, this week, they rushed us back for this meeting so we could talk about it. This piece of paper right here. And this proposal that they sent us is right here that we're going to talk about tonight if we can. Did I miss anything, Rob?
No, I think that's basically it in a nutshell. Very brief. I mean,
Were you talking about the priorities that we mentioned to them?
right,
So
which we ended up with after that meeting.
yeah,
So
the list that we
it'd be
have.
good if you could
Did that list get circulated?
get them on a
I found the one that we
screen or
did.
something.
So there's two separate parts of the list, and I think if that didn't get modeled, just read them out to everybody. So-
Okay, so
Yeah.
what we said to Truex was, in terms of systems, so electrical, plumbing, sprinklers, dealing with the PCB issue, which maybe we get reimbursed from the state, maybe not, but it's an issue that we do need to address. HVAC, and also the roof, if that goes along with HVAC. And the preschool space, which with our survey showed the community was generally in support of that option if we go that route. The auditorium is, needs work and space for staff. So those are the key items that in the immediate future we talked about addressing. And then they did point out that we need a plan to show the community that the other needs just don't go away, that we have to address those two. And here's kind of a incremental plan, I guess you could say, of short, medium, long-term goals to address it.
And then almost immediately, Sarah added structural issues where there were structural issues that were where we were deficient and where we had some serious
Yeah.
structural problems. Those obviously you can't leave.
Right.
And so that list becomes vast. Go ahead.
So I'm just curious, there were a few different conversations that went on, the pre-K building thing, plus then the emergency stuff. And so it seems like you just took those, combined them together, and then that's what you ultimately presented that to Truex, or through conversation, this is what came out
Yeah.
at the end?
Through the conversations here and the
Yeah.
priorities identified through staff, those are actually on the website that we have,
Yeah,
from Sean and from Sarah.
I remember seeing all that
Yeah,
stuff.
so just
you
the-
went with like emergency, these are the
Yeah,
top
bare
things.
bones, what we
Right.
need to do that might make our kids have to leave this building if something happens.
And then the pre-K, we need the space sort of thing
Yeah.
has been folded into. So then, just to be clear, you took that and you said, what if we had 10 million? What if we had 20 million?
Yeah.
And kind of went
Yeah.
there. Okay. And then the other thing I was going to say, for us to just keep in mind, that sort of incremental plan is in the House Committee of Education, today they just voted out, the state funding construction for
Mhm.
schools sort of thing. And obviously there's still time to go, but it looks like they're trying to head in that direction, and they're
Yeah.
debating, is it going to be based on poverty for, students? Like, how are they going to judge who gets what?
Mhm.
So I think it's just important to keep that in mind as obviously we're prioritizing, which I appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
Looked like
definitely.
you did that.
Yeah.
Like this is like the immediate
Yeah.
stuff.
And I
Okay.
hope, and you may know, I read somewhere a long time ago that there may be reimbursement options if say we started this And then 2 years from now, they actually take action with the aid.
Well, so that's what the working group is gonna figure
That would
out.
be
because
great. I
they
mean,
just put in
they could
place the
do
working
that.
group, so we don't know.
We don't know.
But I think they're looking at that. But poverty was, and I know that's something, obviously the money has to come from somewhere, so we have to be conscious of it always.
Yeah,
But poverty was a driving factor for what schools would get what.
yeah,
So I think if that is the case, then obviously,
yeah.
so I don't know what they're gonna base it on, but I just wanted to point out that that's in play, even though
Mhm.
that might be several
Yeah.
years. So the priority, so I just wanted to make sure that that was the goal that you
Yep.
guys went to.
And that's
Okay.
good to know. I mean, staying in the loop with that, we want to know where
Okay.
they're, if we can get anything.
Hopefully it'll
even if
move.
it's-
Yeah, if they create a pool of money and we have a construction project going, then we'll most likely be able to tap.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know about the
But I don't know-
retroactive thing, but,
Usually
Yeah.
you can claw back into that sort of a thing. However, if they create a pool of money, it might not be to fix schools, it might be to consolidate them.
yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah, there was 3 primary goals they had on that, but we'll wait and see, because it's not immediate.
yeah,
at
none
this
of that
time,
yet.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
We got a long way to go on that.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's helpful.
And so that's where we were with them. And now we're gonna come into the problem where we're gonna go back to drawings, engineering, new studies. Some of our stuff is old, and hopefully some better construction costs that we're gonna look at. But they gave us a timeline in these pieces, in this study, in some pieces of paper. And they're talking about reevaluating the facility and redoing some designs and presenting the designs and more community meetings and more engineers and more people on the site and eventually expense. And
And
so
that's the like 34,000.
this number is the work that they're saying they want to do from now through the push to the bond vote. So, but it's not all the way 34,000. That's what they would anticipate. And then they give the individual rates, for consulting engineers and for how much it costs to bring in one person for one day or travel expenses and whatnot. Yeah, $34,000 more
Mhm.
to attack this problem anew. And sorry. I have it in color. If anybody wants to have it emailed to you in color, it doesn't look any better in color.
No.
I was just gonna ask on the
Not
the
better.
schedule, is that, I think it should say 2024.
Yeah.
That's what I mean,
It's
this
just
wasn't something from
yeah,
last
it's-
year.
we talked about this last Thursday. We said, we have this meeting scheduled. We can potentially act on this. And the guy said, well, it's not gonna be ready. I can try. So some of his charts they have a little bit of stuff. Yes, ma'am.
Did they really feel like they had to reevaluate the facility again? Like, felt
I
like that's
don't
important?
know. I don't know how much they have to do again, but I think that what we're talking about is outside the walls, not inside the walls, where it is possible to put, what are those pipes called, Rob?
It's
Teleduct.
I got teleduct. And my question is also does that include the older buildings? Are they going to look at those systems within those older buildings? But if they are actually to be occupied, then they really need to.
Yeah, then it's,
So even if we don't demolish, not demolish, but upgrade them, we need to still look at the systems
Right.
because it's throughout the whole complex.
And they last looked in 2019, I believe, right? 2020.
2019 is the last time they were extensively in the building.
And Sean has not been idle for the last 4 to 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Like there's been
Yeah,
he's made some changes to air handlers. and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, lighting and.
Yeah. So I mean, this is
And I would assume there's also like a level of like building depreciation too,
Yeah.
that happens in that time.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, there's definitely.
But I think a lot of the concern is going to be like, if you have to work in two places, where can you keep kids? Where can you put children
Mhm.
at the same time? Can you put them in a place where you're working? And obviously, you don't want kids in a work zone, but you don't want anything like this. So
And I think it depends on what that work zone looks like, because when we did the air stuff, we were able to do that. And we were able to cordon off sections of the hallway that gave them access and still have our classrooms accessible. Very specifically in middle and high school, but so what is that, what is that level of work? And is it safe first and feasible?
And what are our rules around getting another bid? Do we have to get another bid for this work, or I'm trying to remember the rules around that.
You mean an additional, no, because we're not at the bid part of this yet, but when we
Okay.
get, we don't have a project yet. This is
So
a
just for,
engineering
we don't have to
proposal.
get another bid for,
How about with
Design,
AEs, I
architecture
think
design.
it's based on actual, it's based on the qualifications and not the money.
okay,
But then once you have the actual construction documents, then you bid on the money
okay,
of the contractors. You see, so that's the difference.
okay,
With AEs, it's different from building
okay.
contractors.
And I'm just wondering, does anyone know, I don't know how it goes with the bond, would we, if it was 10 million, if it was 20 million, or is there like an automatic that's like you qualify for like 20, 30-year bond? Like, do we know? Because I'm just, part of me is like, what does Mike Consessi have to say, like number, like we're doing this investment, we have to do this investment.
Yeah.
Like which comes first? How do you set that up?
Right, we would want to do a bond estimate on,
I'm just thinking of like property tax piece and then we're
Yeah.
throwing this on, and granted, we have to figure something out, so it's just, what is the order of, I don't know.
and Mike would do that. It would be like part of the tax impact where he would show how long, or if there are rules around how long a
Yeah.
10 million bond will be versus a 30 million or, right.
Yeah, I just have no idea, like to
Right.
me, I just go back to the economic impact, and granted, these are priorities that need to happen, but like when does that fully come
Yeah.
in? Because I just look at what we did last time, there was like a bunch of money spent, and then it was like, whoa, the tax, and then it was like, whoop, okay, not doing that. And granted, we're in a much more realistic place, with this
Well, hopefully,
approach.
hopefully. So there's
Hopefully.
a point at this where we're talking about presenting the budget. It looks like in August, they're gonna start talking, according to this timeline, they're gonna start talking about
Right.
August and then the month. So then in August of this year, according to this timeline,
That's when they would go there.
it's when you start knowing the numbers, and then you start, people will come out of the woodwork and say,
Right,
why didn't you tell me?
right,
And so
right.
they have a timeline according to this, but I don't know. Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say, so if Truex Cullens is basically has to reevaluate everything again, for better or worse. This is their proposal basically for consulting and preliminary planning.
Well, I'm hoping they don't have to reevaluate everything completely. I'm hoping that they're going to be able to spot check a lot of this stuff, and that's why it's a little bit.
At this rate, there's no way they're doing a full
Yeah,
reevaluation.
I don't think this is. I don't think that this is from zero.
Okay, so well, I was thinking, would it be worthwhile to actually put this out there again? I understand, you didn't have a big response before.
Before we had three. Well, the first time we did it, we had three, and it was a request for proposal, but they weren't going to come, and then a request for proposal, and then they didn't seem like they were good at it, and then it was the people that had done the last renovation, and then Truex Cullens, like you say, was the one that seemed like they were going to act, but then they took us on that trip. So
Yeah, actually, you do get a lot of savings in a complete familiarity with the building.
Right,
Which
right.
you wouldn't.
But
get
I'm
with
what I'm
others.
hoping is that they're going to go in and they're going to confirm the priors. They're going to confirm their work again and where it
Yeah.
might have slipped.
Yeah.
And they're going to be able to base a lot of what they have on what they did. And that's why this number is lower than it was.
And just sort of one other question on that with regards to Sean, it sounds like he's the guy who knows this, is there already sort of an incremental approach in place of like,
We go
Depending
from
on what's-
emergency to emergency right
yeah,
now. We go from crisis to crisis,
Mhm.
and we go from can we spend this money on this particular thing this summer, or should we hold this money in case the entire electrical system goes down? And that's where we stand right now. Can we upgrade right now? Can we put controls on our heating system?
right,
Only if we would have stolen that money during the budgeting process that we didn't from the state. Only if we
Right.
would have had that extra
Right,
5%.
right.
Could we have afforded that? Because right now we have to keep the money in case the plumbing system goes out. And so every time we look at that assessment, we see the same thing. This $400,000 that we have in surplus is best served to save us,
Yeah.
to keep the school open.
So this is the full ultimate list.
It's,
priority wise, yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's, so like last summer, we did LEDs
Mhm.
because
We had to.
we had to, and they were gonna be illegal. LEDs are illegal now, so if you, everything not
Yes.
LED is illegal.
Fluorescents
They're
are illegal.
You can't buy them.
LED is
are
very legal.
So we did those and it was $114,000. There was some grant money to chase. So that was what we paid into the grants
Yeah.
because it made economic sense because we didn't have anything else to act on.
Mhm.
So we used some of the money on that, but the rest of the money we held. And both of these ladies want us to fix the heating system
Right.
so that we're more efficient
I
on the
heard
heating.
that for sure, yeah.
And they wish that we would do it so that they wouldn't have to sit in, because where Sarah sits is 85 degrees and where Natalie sits is 50 degrees. She sits by an open door. So they would like us to have a heating system that worked throughout the building, but we don't. And if we tried to get one, it costs $85,000. And that's our electrical, that's our money for when everything fails electrically.
Okay.
So we're sort of, we've been in this pickle for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And so, no, there's not really a cohesive
Right.
plan passed. This is an emergency and today nothing broke.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we feel like the town would say yes to a $10 million bond?
Today, I don't feel safe in the grocery store right now. I don't feel like walking. I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm a very popular man in this town. I got yelled at by at least 9 people on Saturday, and I was.
I saw
nice.
it.
I mean,
He's poking his head out.
Oh, there's God, I saw Lance there. Oh God, there's Lance. Oh, please no. So no, I right now, but a lot of that is, I think a lot of what happened at town is people said, we're upset, we'll vote no. And the people that came to vote, 500 voters, it's a big turnout, which is great. And it's great that people got their voice. I'm happy that the budget got passed. But a lot of that is, this is how you can voice your anger at Montpelier.
Right.
This is not necessarily how you voice your anger at Danville.
Right.
And so I'm mad at Montpelier, and the only thing I can do here, because we only talk about this with our Australian ballot, is I care about the school, I care about whatever, I care about my kids, my grandkids, whoever's in the school, I care about my community, but Montpelier needs to know that I'm upset. I vote no.
Right.
And you could see it in the votes.
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of this is not permanent. And I think that a lot of the people that voted no on the budget still care about and support the school and the community around the school. So that's the only thing I can think, because otherwise, basically I gotta walk off the job.
Well, that's where, just back to your question, like reality check,
Well, it's just like wondering, like I think you were saying, going through this process again, we want to make sure that we're going to come, I don't want to do it again and then be like, well, that didn't work either.
I think this is the bare minimum. So
Yeah.
If we're,
if we're doing anything,
make or
this
break.
is, and I do think the board, we need to be mindful, and staff and our new superintendent, that we just need to think about the budget and how we fit this in and be realistic about that. I mean, I
We
think
need
this was a really hard year, and we'll see what happens next year. Maybe the state will change things. Maybe we'll see
Well, I
positive
don't-
changes, but
this isn't that discussion, but next year, we have more long-term weighted average daily members. When Act 127 comes again for the second pass, and the yield rate is different, and a lot of the things that went away, we may end up with a higher number,
right.
because we have a higher number of what used to be all equalized pupils.
But it's also so tough because it's like, it might say, like, I know Tucker said this at town meeting, it might benefit us as a town, but then that burden is being put on other Vermonters. So across the board, as on a state level, it's not really working. So obviously that's another conversation. But the thing I wanted to go back to is like, that's where I was wondering, like, is it, what could you do for 2 million? Like, is there a really realistic approach that the town could get behind? And that's where it's like,
I
it's
think
just
2 million is like
nothing.
paint and
Yeah.
get a
Yeah.
sign.
It's-
and
so this
And
is-
that's, it's like, and what about
Yeah.
the building? Like, I know you guys need this, I don't know.
yeah.
So we didn't,
But I think
we
it's
told
important.
them 10 million and we told them 20 million,
Yeah,
but we said the bare minimum. We
Yeah.
said, what is the least we can do to comply? We didn't, and then with 10 million being the number.
And there was strategy around that. I think it was 5% more than what our tax rate was.
That's what I was wondering, because the survey said like more
5%.
people would be willing to do like 5. I'm
Yeah.
curious, would 5% be 10
That was
million?
that
Is that
10
where you
million
came in
based
that
on-
number? Okay.
Not 2025 budget, but it was
Right.
based on numbers that we had
Okay.
that were, it wasn't a 5% increase in the tax rate, but I think it was in our total expenses.
Okay.
I'll have to look at that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
a
just
$10 million bond is like $400,000 to $500,000 a year.
Yeah,
That you have to pay,
Yeah.
and our increase this year was 600,000.
yeah,
Just as a,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, just to like present it
Yeah, that's a
to
good way
the
to look at
town
it.
as like, hey,
Mhm.
remember that survey that we did?
Yeah.
You said you would
helpful.
support this.
All right, Mary wants to talk. All right, Mary wants to talk.
Yeah.
Mary.
I just had a question. It's not related, or it is related to that, but on this report, it says that it's Truex Cullen and our consultant team. Is that their internal team, or is this, they
No.
contract out the,
So Shrek Collins is like
studies.
9 people, and then sometimes they have to call in extra
Yeah,
engineers. So
so-
they do a lot of contract work.
so I guess my question was if they are not able to hire the same people that did the original evaluation, that may be reflected in this cost that it has to, it probably has to be done all over again anyway.
No, these, so the way that architects work is
Yeah.
like they have the same
Consult.
MEPs,
Yeah, same
structural,
ones.
civil, whatever, and then
Yeah.
just go back to them every project.
And the
they have.
individuals are usually the same.
Yeah.
Well,
that were
usually,
involved
I
before.
know, I agree that it would be trying to
It
get
would
the
be beneficial,
same,
right?
but with the
Yeah.
time frame that we're
Yeah.
trying to work at, they might not be able to.
Well,
I don't know,
we
it's
could
just
confirm
throwing
that.
it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be surprised if it was different.
Yeah.
Well, I would too,
Just in
but that would be,
It's right here.
Oh,
one never
But,
knows.
but it's a lump amount,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that
it's a
means
fixed fee.
that they're really looking to use the maximum input
Mhm.
from those that have already been on the project. Because if you bring in new people, then
Well,
that
what was
means
the
you can
original
spend less.
valuation? What did that cost? It must have been a
It
lot
was
more than this.
Much more. So there was 2 different turns of it.
Uh-huh.
There was a whole bunch of the drawing we had to shift around, and it was like 130,000,
Yeah.
$128,000.
Yeah.
It was like 65 each time, right? Something like that.
But
That's what I
to
had
me
in my head,
looks-
yeah.
It was 65, but it was
Yeah.
twice, and it was.
I mean, this doesn't look like they can redo a whole lot at 34.
It isn't very high. It's, as, as I look at that, it's extracting a lot of what they've done already and updating it. That's basically what they're gonna be doing, and new drawings maybe.
So a lot of what I'm gonna be asking this committee is, what I'm looking at is about 8% of what we're holding in terms of emergency funds, in terms of urgent need funds, with the 427,000, this is 34,000, it's like 8%, something like that. Do you guys feel like spending 8% of that money to try to push this forward, since we know we have to, is a worthwhile expenditure of those funds? Given
Yes.
What's the other option?
I see.
the other option is just to fold up our ships
yeah.
and
Wait for something to break.
Wait for everything.
wait for something
Right.
to
I mean,
break.
this hasn't been a
I know it's-
priority for
Yeah.
decades.
Yeah.
So I know it's, I mean, I know it's, it doesn't seem like as much fun as, some of the other stuff, but
No.
This is
Yeah.
all one.
this is an investment in trying to get
both these.
this thing
Yeah.
pushed to the end with something.
And at the end of that whole exercise, basically, they're gonna present this, here's the plan, this is what we would do, and then we put it out for bid. Sort of
Well,
thing.
this-
like
it won't-
Well, you
it
have
won't
to
be-
get the bond.
It won't be, we have to, you wouldn't put it out for bid until you had the bond.
Until you actually get
So
the
you
bid.
wouldn't,
Yeah. right.
this is what we need to do. This is either the bare minimum we need to do, or somewhat more than the bare minimum that we need to do. This is what it's gonna cost. This is what a bond's gonna look like. And then we decide up or down, yes or no vote, and what percentage of the voters we need, what the length of the bond is and all that sometime in August. And then if the town says we can do it, then we would proceed. And then, and this is on the old plan, taxes were going up like for those huge numbers, the 70 cents, something like that. So maybe this doesn't take the highest in taxes up quite that high, and maybe it's a more palatable number. But again, we're not working off every taxpayer pays the same. So
I assume when they do it, their costs will be a little padded on the conservative side to cover us.
It's a fixed
It's
fee.
a fixed fee.
Well.
No, I'm
No.
saying when we
The
say.
project-
Oh,
The
no, yeah,
project
yeah.
cost.
When they pick and grab, they're gonna
Yeah.
pad it up so that when we do go out to bid, we can have room to add.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
I think,
additional.
yeah,
I
contingency
usually
fees,
have about a
10%.
10%.
Yeah, contingency on that.
Okay,
And that was built
Um,
into the original
okay.
first plan too.
And this isn't, in construction documents. This is only design development, isn't that what he said?
Right, this isn't the blueprints, this is the drawing.
No, this is the design concept, okay? And that means you know, just a schematic, a design, the electrical, the mechanical, structural evaluations, things like that. It's not the construction documents. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna just reiterate what I was saying. If this is the plan to hire them again, I mean, that's actually, in my mind, that number is not unreasonable, 34,000. But what I'm thinking is, I realize we have a timeline, but what would it hurt to put that out there again? As far as for either an engineering firm as opposed to architectural firm.
I'm just worried, Doug, that they don't know anything. They're gonna walk in fresh and they're gonna say, we don't know what's behind this wall and we need to get all the way behind this wall again before we can tell you anything.
Yeah, I think they
Check.
invested 130
It's
grand basically in
perfect.
discovery. So.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
gonna cost,
Did they use
I
that?
think
it's not gonna cost us anything,
They could, but
Yeah,
they
put it out to
probably
bid.
won't.
but if they say, you know, we don't know
They
all
could
this
use
stuff,
the previous
If they
stuff,
use
but they
cost that
probably
amount,
wouldn't.
cost that amount.
They
They
probably
probably
wouldn't
wouldn't.
redo, yeah.
Yeah, they
So
would.
you're
They
saying
would
you think we
definitely.
should
They would have
do
to.
that?
Right,
I
they
can
would,
see
it'll
that,
be their own liability pieces and
that we
stuff.
should, and because all the information and stuff that's already been captured by them, really they're the sole source. But it would, it's not gonna cost us, you
Right.
know,
It'll be more expensive. If it's gonna be more expensive, it will show in their bid.
Yeah.
You'll know.
And then you can
That's
say,
what I'm saying.
well,
I'm not advocating. for
they
any
wanna do
other
it for
firm or
100,000 because they
anything,
haven't
but
been in
what
here
does
yet.
it hurt to put that out there at this point?
Right. At least we
You
can
know,
say we
because it's
did it.
a different set of eyes. We were
Okay.
led down a path once
Well,
this way,
actually,
and that, you know, and so for good, bad, or otherwise, but at the end of the day, so what would it hurt to have somebody else look at it? And, you know, if the number's out of whack, then fine, yeah, like, just throw it away.
And they don't have to be the lowest number to use them still.
And they can't use the 200-page report that Truex, I mean, they wouldn't use any of
They
their,
wouldn't.
they probably legally can't use
That's
any of that. So they would be starting from scratch.
Yeah,
Does
I
the
know.
school own that engineering?
Well, they can look at it, but liability wise.
They would have to redo all of the old stuff.
So that's
But,
what the money will be expensive.
but it's a good if you look at the background, because in the beginning, we gave them a scope of work, which was to do an assessment of the whole building, of the whole place. And it wasn't just the structure or the existing infrastructure. It was the programs, you know, for instruction, and it was an overall thing. And but I have looked at a lot of those those reports on a lot of schools up in Alaska, especially, and it was a very good report that they did. If you had restricted their scope, then you would have ended up with a lot smaller report, maybe a bunch of less money, maybe, but you wouldn't have gotten that overall look that we asked them to do. You see, and I believe there's a misconception that they looked for anything that they could add into their scope, you know, to get more money. Well, that isn't what we instructed them to do. We instructed them to look at the whole building. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah. Do
Yeah,
you
that's
think,
where it
And I
seems
just
like the
would like to
34,
make
like the
certain.
8% of it, is that what you said it was? I mean,
Roughly,
that's
yeah,
where it
roughly.
does seem, I mean, granted,
Yeah.
you never know what people are gonna respond to on the bond when it comes, but
Mhm.
if it's an emergency and there's not really an option, it's like,
Right.
what are we really to do?
yeah,
Unless it's gonna roll emergency to emergency, which, I mean, I'm not in here every day, but you guys are, so, I don't know.
Rob, with what you said, are you thinking, because our scope is smaller, we've narrowed it down to these priorities, that if we went out to another architect or engineer, you think that it wouldn't be obviously as much as what we did before with Truex, because they're not gonna do a whole assessment of the building?
Right. Well,
Do you think it's worth doing that, or do you
the
feel like?
that other job that they did, okay, that was the big circle, okay? And that's the instance, we've got a smaller circle within that big circle. If we bring in others, they're gonna make a big circle.
Right.
And it may not be as large as this circle was, but it'll be maybe a bit smaller. But it won't be this scope because they have to learn about the whole system
Yeah.
themselves. Because they can't rely on that existing report.
I don't know how many people in the state do that. I just wonder if it's worth a phone call. Like, you know, you'd be
Yeah.
looking at 75,000, you'd be looking at, you know, I don't know. And obviously, I don't know,
Just to talk it through.
just to
and
see. Because we don't know. I mean, Rob,
Right.
obviously, you know more than any of us on that piece because you've done it. But just to get some numbers, I don't know if that's worthy.
Well, it's not exactly based on the numbers of the fee, for
Mhm.
example. Because you can go all over the place. If you don't give them an exact scope of what they're supposed to do,
Right.
then
Gotcha.
you'll get lots of different numbers.
Gotcha.
You know?
And so in this case.
And they
with the
don't
scope-
bid against each other.
Right.
In this case, the scope we're giving them is off things they know.
Yeah.
And so it's, we give the, to somebody else that they have to figure out what they know before they
Right.
even give them the scope.
Nobody's gonna turn this around on a phone call
Yeah.
either. They're gonna have to do site visits,
Mhm. And I
evaluations
don't
of
know when
of
the
all
charge
those. So.
starts to come in. Yeah.
They won't charge for that. I mean,
Right.
that's as part of the bidding process, but
But they are marketing
yeah,
process.
yeah. But this isn't gonna take like a week to call. I mean,
Maybe months.
I don't know how
A
many
couple
architects
months.
even do
Exactly.
scholastic
Exactly.
buildings in
Right.
Vermont. I mean,
Well, if they can't catch up, they can't catch up, and 34,000 looks like a deal.
Right.
Oh, it is.
it is absolutely a deal.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, because they can't catch up with their circle.
Right.
And if
You know.
Truex has a good rep and you guys have liked working with them,
Right.
and it seems like there's,
Yeah,
good
I,
response.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right, I mean,
actually,
I just think every day that goes by, the dollar amount goes up. Honestly, you know, so if we were to put this out and to try to get another estimate, and what I'm hearing Rob say is that no one's gonna be able to give us this equivalent because they'd have to do that big picture work first, because you've gotta, that's just how it goes. So even if we saved in theory, you know, a few tens of thousands of dollars
But
on that, which seems unlikely because this is only 30 to begin with. We've only got that 4 and change to work with in real time
427
now.
I think what it
And so
was,
that's
yeah,
gonna
427.
do nothing but go down.
There's $27,000 in the building fund.
Yeah.
How long is this bid for, before we have to say we want this and we commit to them? Because they don't leave these out there forever. It's usually 30
No.
days.
But
Yeah,
it's,
they
we've
say
only had it
that.
for free,
yeah,
so
they-
Right.
we've only had it since the 11th.
Because you're not doing request for proposal, it's an invitation to bid. And you send it out to,
the
two
AIA.
other qualified.
Yeah,
Right, but Truex usually will say this is valid for.
yes,
Yeah.
right. In fact,
They
they
do.
usually
Send
put that
it
at
and get
the end of
signature
their-
Page for acceptance.
Well, and
Yeah,
like we're not
that's
the only
true,
people
yeah.
who are looking at Truex. So if we pass on this,
Right.
5 other schools
Right, they are
Put
the
them
biggest
on
school architecture
in the
firm
next
in the
2
state.
months.
I don't know the answer, I don't know the
Them,
answer to that
then-
question.
Right, yeah.
There's no signature
Yeah, there's
page to accept their proposal here anyway.
Yeah.
Handshake.
Yeah.
It was, it probably, yeah, it just wasn't.
No, you wouldn't do a handshake.
What they sent me, what I got emailed on Monday afternoon.
Okay. I mean, that's something to consider too.
All right.
Is this something that the board is going to vote on soon?
I've got action on this tonight if I want.
You do.
If you guys want to go with this $34,000 bid, we can do this tonight. We can go into business with them if you want to do it. I'm good with it.
Think so?
Yeah, I am
agree.
too.
We're all in agreement that that's a very reasonable number.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think it's not. worth
So
it.
this is what this does is this just, because what we've been sitting with and what we did all year last year was try again from where we were basically inert, let's say. And we sat around in the room and tried to get a little momentum with us to get the ball moving a little bit, and then to get everybody in the room that would come to these meetings to agree that we had a problem, that we had to try again. And if we can take this and get this ball moving and ask Truex to come back and based on the information that they had and based on the information that we have, that they can ascertain, maybe get us somewhere, maybe get us to where we can not have to worry about whether the electrical's gonna fail.
Need a motion?
But before I get a motion from a board member, everybody, I mean, with your reservations, I know we have reservations, but if we do this, you're gonna walk out of the room feeling like you weren't heard?
We at least discussed doing an invitation to bid. And it seems like that's not gonna work. So we can say that, we looked at sending it out, but there were other reasons, so.
All right.
So I'm satisfied
Bruce
because
just
we
signed-
have discussed it.
Bruce just signed on. Let me just.
We should,
Now, for the construction side of things, there will be a bidding process.
Yes.
Right.
For that. So
Right.
that's,
Right.
it's not like
Yeah,
a
Actually, you know,
default that they're,
walkthrough or
yeah.
something.
with the AEs, you usually look at their backgrounds, their experience, their qualifications based,
There's no
so,
way they can catch up that big circle
yeah.
to get to where Truex already is.
I mean, it would
Right.
be
It'll be a lot.
hard putting the proposal together as you
Yeah.
look at what's been done already.
Could we get the
So-
St. J electricians in, the way you guys did
really
over
nice
the train
design, that
station?
one.
That would be amazing.
Well, you can talk to St. John's
We should talk to
Academy,
them.
see if they got any architects
Seriously.
amongst the students.
Yeah, they could almost find them.
I know, exactly. We got a project. Yeah.
I'm just gonna catch Bruce up real quick.
Okay.
I think if we have it documented and we can explain to the community how we
Right.
came to the decision that it was discussed and we thought about it instead of it, feeling like a quick decision that wasn't thought through. I feel like we had a good discussion on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear that it's the existing campus.
Right.
This has to be done.
Right.
If it- Or the kids don't, if something major happens, the kids have nowhere to go.
Well,
like, now what?
And when we pump the brakes, when we had to pump the brakes, this is what people said, is what can you do for less? Try to come in at a much lower number and
Yeah.
just see what's possible. So when we get these numbers back, when we get, we're gonna, what can 10 million do, what can 20 million do, or thereabouts, we're gonna start to see, well, 10 million might not solve our problem.
But it is good with this reduced scope, is that we can interact with them a lot more specifically
Right.
versus, a whole new school, where we're gonna put it. And, I mean, the big general.
Well, I think,
You know, this is more nuts. and
yeah, like
bolts.
the idealized version of a sprinkler system
Yeah.
versus this,
Right.
versus what can we do to get legal?
Right.
And safe, right?
Right.
Legal and safe is where we're trying to get, because we can't put in a $10 million sprinkler system, which is what the sprinkler system portion of that last bid was, if you only had $10 million.
Right.
So
And are they gonna do like a la carte sort
this
of
is,
thing?
the- it's,
Well, sometimes you get the interaction between systems where one relies on the other.
Right. So
And you
that's
can't
what you
really
have to
break
do
them
about-
out separately,
Okay, got it, yeah,
so.
yeah.
And you both feel okay with this plan?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those, it's like that systems piece when we're looking at plumbing, we can't find shut off valves. So then
Yeah.
we have to shut off the entire building with
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
That's
Because
crazy.
they buried some of them. Like when they did at different editions and stuff.
Yeah.
They just,
Oh, God.
yeah.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. Lance?
Yeah,
Yes.
should be put in writing, moving forward, let's do this in a way
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I think like you're like to the a la carte point, Allison, I think there's probably some systems that we can do that for, but like our electrical system, can it even handle some of the systemic
Right.
upgrades? I would doubt it.
I heard
And we
Tom
can't-
talk about that.
And we can't
exactly.
test it to find out.
Right.
So
And teachers opening their windows in the middle of winter because there's no adjustment for the heat. I mean, we're losing money every
Oh, yeah,
day,
exactly.
And
just out of curiosity, if, and gosh, hopefully it doesn't happen, it seems like you guys have already gone through it, but if there is like a system failure or something happens, like, does insurance ever come into play, or is that just like a
no,
quick
this is just,
scramble on a
not,
bond?
insurance will only come into play if there's something that wasn't your equipment wearing out.
Right,
This is
okay.
if you,
I just didn't know
if you
how
never
that
replace your
would-
roof and then you get your rain and your house gets
That's
damaged, the
obviously
insurance
your
will.
fault.
they'll-
That's
they'll-
neglect is what they call it.
They'll never say.
Right.
This is-
It's not
this
an
building-
act of God.
This
It's
building,
not.
this building is
Definitely
currently a
did
victim
that.
of neglect. It's like any, basically, they could deny any claim.
Yeah.
Because they
Yeah.
say, well,
Because of
you're,
the status.
we could, whatever we brought them with, they could say, but you haven't taken care of your building.
Mhm.
Show us your service records for,
So we're just all
Preventative
catching
maintenance.
up.
Right.
we haven't done any.
Yeah, the roof is good for that, at least preventative maintenance.
And I think that's something that we call out, is that had we done some
Right.
PM over the past 25, 30 years, we wouldn't be in this
Right.
situation.
Yeah.
So
And we need to
you would
plan for
have
that.
incurred 800, 500 a year
Yes.
for the past 20 years
Yeah.
compounded. So
Yeah.
you're kind of, now you just pay it now versus
Right.
over the last 20 years. So
And we're gonna have to build it into our
it's-
budget for maintenance of these
Right.
systems once they're
Once they're
in.
here.
You know, we
Right.
don't wanna be in this situation again in 10,
No.
20 years, so it's gonna be, there's costs with that too, that we gotta think about. And I guess that's Sean. Sean is the one to do all that planning. and-
We don't currently have a facilities director after 2 weeks. It's an open position.
Oh,
No.
So
Sean?
is he going?
I
is
wasn't
he
say- I wasn't saying that out
still,
loud.
or-
I didn't realize we were saying that out loud.
it's a posted position. So
Oh, it is, okay.
Oh, wow.
Is he with Twinfield still, or
No.
just not Danville, or,
No.
okay?
That's
Ooh.
So-
No, he really
There's a
did.
lot of there's a lot of institutional that he has with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Well,
only
he's
been,
been
he-
in the-
he's only been
in
here
this
about,
area a long time.
Yeah.
He went to school here.
yeah, but then
Oh, he
he's
did,
lived
huh?
out of the
Oh, has
area.
he?
He lives down, he doesn't live up here. He lives in Barry, which isn't like that far, but he's
Oh.
only been here about 3 years,
Yeah.
2.5, 3 years, something like that.
I spoke to Sean today via email at 3:00 and he said something to that effect. And he said, I can still come to the meeting if you want me to. If you need me, let me know. I'll come in. And I released him from his being voluntold to come to one more of these.
Yeah.
Said, you've done your service, sir.
I wasn't saying it out loud.
Yeah,
You point so point quickly asked me.
I'm not just crowing that I knew this.
So-
It's
No,
like,
I just like the fact that he had a tie to this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had been
Yes.
tied to the,
Yes.
tied to the community, tied to the
It's kinda- it's
school,
kinda neat.
and I felt like he was really invested. And then,
Yeah, it's.
but he was the facilities director of Danville, then he was the facilities director of 3 schools, and so now there's a big gap in the CCSU that I don't know. It's not my job to fill it, so it's not my job to hire that person. So
But then has that got any impact on the fee and on the work? Is my question, because if you have a good interaction with the existing staff and the architects, and you've discussed a lot,
The architects did not interact with Sean.
they
All-
didn't.
No,
Okay.
all of the conversation was with me and Dave.
Good,
So
okay.
yeah, this is,
And then with
we
the board.
now have to tell Natalie that principals go on roofs.
And
And everything else you do, principals also go on roofs. I don't know why principals go on roofs.
Yeah, I'm not saying he
Principals
never
go
sat
on
with
roofs.
them,
Yeah,
but the
yeah,
big
but-
meetings
I
and the
mean-
plannings and stuff,
Okay, okay,
Dave and I did those.
okay, good.
So this might be a good time if someone does start, at least it's a newer process that
Engage him.
they could be part of.
Yeah.
If somebody, when somebody,
Right.
when
When.
somebody
Right.
starts.
Okay.
Anybody? I'm ready. We all agree?
Okay. Dave, did you want to do it?
I'm not allowed to do it.
Yep, I'll make a
Just say-
motion to approve 34,300 to Truex Collins and their consultant team to complete the core services as outlined in this document.
In their proposal for the continued project scope
Yes.
of Danville School.
Oh,
There's another
a quick
11,000.
question. Yeah,
One
does
sec,
that-
Rob. One sec.
You need a
Procedure,
second first.
procedure.
To be determined.
Second from the back, second from Tim.
Tim.
Now, I can continue the discussion, yes, sir?
Does that include the fees of $6,000?
And
That's just-
5,000.
That's just, it's listed in there. That's part of their,
Mm-mm.
that's part of the 34, as I understand it.
Well, he's got
No, I don't
I
the
don't
think
think
so.
amount
so
below
either.
there, and I think that's
It says
plus
as
the
needed.
34.
I think that, I
Okay.
think each of those bolded things are
And the
additional
lump sum,
on an hour, there's an hourly. I think it's hourly. This is
And-
more too.
the estimator and the structural survival and MEP are above that amount. I'm thinking.
Now they're hustling us. earlier, everything was great.
Well, it is still
There-
great,
Yeah, there's,
Well, you
could
can
only-
ask them, clarify it.
but I think those are in addition because,
Yeah.
oh, wait, it
There's
says,
an initial.
and our consultant team
Right,
proposed.
so that may.
So
No, but it says.
that is the team for this week.
They said they will bill for core cost estimating, so for here.
That's right, you see,
So that would be
with
in
no markup, but is that in the lump sum? If you could clarify that, and maybe the overall motion
So what,
as a contingent.
Is it worth $45,000 is the
Yeah,
question.
either way, we're
Because if it is,
either
can we
way.
just make an up to
Right.
40,
Right,
Okay,
yeah, I agree.
46,000?
That would be better.
That would save us a month.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just need to do it.
And then clarify,
Amend the
right.
motion. to an
Yeah,
amount
I
up
would,
to
because
$46,000.
it is a little bit vague, so
Because if it's so worth it at
As I look at that-
$46,000, we just do it.
And that's in the first sentence of the
Yeah.
phone call, just say you
Yes.
left this a little bit vague.
I think this
Right.
is all of it included, because it does say, meaning, I think it just is stating that any civil, structural, and MEP, anybody outside of them, that will show up in our bill.
It's a breakdown of the 34.
Yeah,
I think it's a bring of the
yeah, I think it is.
That's
Below
my-
that, it says other possible project tasks not
Right.
included are considered supplemental
Right,
services.
that's the way I read it.
what
Yeah.
would you?
Yes,
confirm?
why would they bother to put it
So
out?
if,
Yeah.
okay, so I think it's 34.3, and I think it means 34.3. But if we go up to 46
Mhm.
and then clarify that it's 34.3, then we're covered to not have to come to
That's
another
right.
meeting.
Yeah.
Looks like it came in last, that's a good thing.
We save money.
We just saved some money, you guys.
So
Yeah.
to do that, do you want to back your motion out? Do you want to amend your motion?
I'll remove the motion.
His motion's coming off the floor. Yeah.
All right, how do I document that in the minutes? I just say discussion and then say
Discussion is to-
amended.
No,
Dave
no,
removed- Dave
no.
removed his motion.
Rescind.
Okay.
I make a motion, same words, 46,000.
Yeah.
All over again?
You said 46?
Up
But I
to,
don't, but I
Up
don't
to.
think it's
Up
42.
to.
I don't think it's
Up to.
46.
I don't either.
I'm going to seek to clarify the
that.
information. I'll send out clarification via email when I have it.
I will second.
Motion and a second. Okay. So who votes? It's just the board members. Any further discussion? All in favor of accepting this proposal up to 46 with a clarified email to come, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. It's a baby step, but we're past baby steps. We may get a ball rolling here. And I'm happy to get a ball rolling. I want to thank everybody, though, in the meantime, for your patience through last year. We went through some weird exercises. And we went through some things but we sat in a room together. We decided we could work together. We got over a lot of our anger, and we got past some of that stuff. And it was, for all that stuff was beneficial, and you had to believe that it was for it to be. And so this is exactly the same thing that Beth said it was. What if we had $2 million? Basically, we took that and built off of it.
I can't imagine a bond with the budget this year either, so I can't
Correct.
imagine that passing, so
That would have
Correct.
been a
Right.
big no.
Yeah.
maybe silver lining.
Really fast.
We all planned it.
Actually, I think if you figured in the cost of the bond would probably, if you went 20 million, be close to what you increased the
Right.
budget for.
Yeah, there's no way.
I think if it had been the bond on there instead of increased other costs, you might have not had the difficulty.
Right.
Just my opinion.
Yeah, to close the narrow margin.
Yeah.
But they're not both there, so that's good.
I will refrain from trying to explain to you Act 127, how the inflation affected you 3 different ways, and the CLA backwards and forwards. So great.
But
Uh,
so,
No. I don't have any, you have to start with the budget, and the people, if they look at the budget and they know the increase was due to cost for the building that had to be done, I think that made a difference than perhaps some of the other
Right.
There is,
items.
Right.
there is a 6-year line to get reappraised again for the to try to get your CLA back to 1. And,
6 years.
yeah, we're never gonna get reappraised. So I don't have, a lot of big positivity about next year having a CLA that's higher than
State and
0.85.
I
legislature,
think
they
you
will
would
figure
have a
it
good
out.
approval.
Okay,
Anybody had some land they can get rid of real cheap?
you gotta sell your land for less than what it's worth in a hurry.
So for the last 14 years, the board was not approached saying, we need this and it's gonna cost $1 million. We didn't say, no, we're not gonna do that. You know, when things came to the board that we need to do this, we need to save the roof or these other things, you know, we did go through with that. But it's not like we turned down work that needed to be done.
Right,
The communication didn't happen that needed to happen to let us know what was happening.
Right.
The upkeep wasn't happening.
Right.
And nobody knew the upkeep wasn't happening. It was one of those, no news is good news. We assumed everything was running well and the upkeep was happening.
You always make it sound better.
And well, and that's the reality of what happened.
Yeah.
It was one of those, we had somebody who spoke very confidently about what was happening here. And it was like, we're great, everything's great. And that was not the case. And the reality was at some point, someone else walked through and went, what's going on in here? And that's where we are now. The reality.
Moving forward, what kind of oversight are we going to have on the new facilities to make sure that it's?
Yeah.
Start with the director.
so,
You mean to the facilities director, that person oversees
Yeah.
that?
Well,
Have a little
the
checklist
current
for
person that
them.
was, the person that was responsible for this building.
Yeah.
Whoever they report to, I assume it's the director.
it was a direct report. So the person you write, it's a direct report from whoever, the person responsible for this building directly reported to the superintendent. But
Okay.
But he didn't work in this building. He worked in 3 buildings.
Yeah.
Previously, though, it was a direct report to the principal.
Okay, that's the one I'm referring to.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, previously,
This-
and even, and Sean too, before he became a district, it was a direct report to the principals. And so, I mean, there's definitely still regular and would be planned for a new individual to have regular, we do them bi-monthly now, meetings and stuff like that. I think now that, yeah, there's a lot more awareness now. So I think things won't get brushed under the
And
rug.
having somebody
Right.
come in that knows exactly what should have been seen.
I mean, I remember the meeting that we were sitting in going, the windmill's up there spinning, but it's not doing anything. It wasn't connected. It was broken. The upkeep never happened that needed to happen, so it was just pretty. And sort of the same
Very
thing happened with the wood plant. It was one of those like, oh, we haven't reset in forever. Why? It doesn't work. When did that happen?
Yeah.
And that's
It seems like it'd be pretty straightforward checklist of, the communication to ensure moving forward.
Hopefully with the second administrator because there's a choke point at the superintendent level too with direct reports, because there was 15 of them. There's all the building principals and then 10 other people that report directly to the superintendent.
Yeah.
Hopefully with an assistant superintendent, some of that work can get shared and some of the stuff can be dealt with at a more hands-on manner.
Was Sean's position, he was Twinfield and Danville, right? Or was
And
he
Cabot.
Twinfield,
And
Cabot,
Cabot.
Danville, right.
So he was CCSU employee, or meaning like.
He for two, yeah, he
Yeah.
became one. He wasn't initially, he started just here.
Okay.
Are we hiring for just here?
I
or
don't know
for-
yet. I've not seen that.
We are not,
Since it was posted, that's why,
we are not.
okay. It's at the SU level.
That would be right.
But it might be at the SU level 3 times. I really don't know. Twinfield, one person for 3 buildings? All right. So that's your
That
answer.
are failing, the buildings that are not in good condition.
Twinfield's pretty good.
Yeah,
Except for the flooding.
2 are.
I forgot the
Two.
flooding, except for the flooding.
Right.
The flooding is a bit of a problem.
That's all like their property. Though.
Yeah.
It's not the building.
Yeah.
Besides, just like
Minor.
last year, which chances gonna happen again?
The flooding.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got it
That was-
bad. They still have no fields.
All right. So that's been acted on. We can move on if you'd like.
Yep.
The second, we had a presentation in December from Eric with some spreadsheets about student enrollment, things like that. We later got some information from NESDEC, and we learned with NESDEC. We had asked then, could we get the information from Eric's report to NESDEC and from NESDEC's report to Eric to see how they matched up and whether or not they tied off. And Lance asked me to make sure that this got addressed again. And so what I'd just like to do is forward a message to the superintendent to see if we can get, you send me your thing again, I'll send it to the superintendent and say, how does this match up with your projections? And then I don't know that they had cost data that we've solicited yet from them.
Yeah, well, the other thing I wanted to do is have NASDAQ vet Eric's spreadsheet so that we have a third party that this is what they do. Say, yeah, this is great. I mean, it all looks perfect to all of us. Like it all matches. It makes sense. Just to have their buy-in and say, yeah, his sheet is spot on. So then that gives validity and solid standing for his report to be able to use as a document for the public. So it's not just one of our folks.
Yeah, so I think
on staff,
worksheet, I think this is worksheet work, and I think this is gonna be, Eric's gonna look at his documentation again. I know he had, in your document, you had anticipated that the CLA was gonna be 0.95 across the board.
I didn't see, it going to tip into 85%.
Yeah, and so then it immediately craters a lot of the numbers.
Right. So embedding it, then we have a document that we can then flow in the NASDAQ projections that we okay for their consulting fees for.
So I think that this is gonna be, if Eric's up for it, with some worksheet work before we get to this point, to send it to NASDAQ to see how it matches up with some stuff.
And you and Mike already spoke, and that's all good with Mike, so.
Yeah, I
they
vetted
know-
it with Mike first before I presented it here.
It's,
So.
yeah, connecting through Mark, whether you have somebody at NASDAQ you can talk to. And they were supposed to do a special ed report as part of our membership, if we could get, I don't know if they're still working on that, or maybe a Mark check-in for that
So,
too.
yeah, this is gonna be, we probably need a NASDAQ small team
Okay,
that goes back in and taps Mark on the shoulder and says, hey, we had a deal.
okay.
So,
So I think that is part of the membership that we paid to get that.
so we need to just squeeze some more documentation out of them and then see if they can take a look at your projections for costs and see where we are.
Yeah, as a ballpark, their projections and mine for student body were pretty similar.
They
It
seem,
was a slow decline, essentially, is
yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
the headline.
So that's really all I had on that, was just to make sure that we
Yep.
kept it on the radar and that it's something that we're gonna look at. And so then in what I assume will be next month's meeting, then we can talk about that again. Hopefully we can get some information from them. And if we don't have that information, we may not have a reason to meet. It just depends on what we have. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna
what
move
is
down.
that meeting, the next meeting?
So we tend to meet on, we tend to schedule a bunch of meetings in a row, and then if we,
Not to jump ahead. on
Did
the
we do
agenda,
it?
but
Did we do April?
I think I saw one in April.
We did.
I think we have in April, and then we don't have in May. April, I don't have an April, actually.
18th.
April 18th,
Yeah, I thought
okay.
I saw it today.
Oh, I bet it's the 17th.
And nothing's
Wednesday, that's
really
probably my-
happened
nope,
with
sorry.
regards to
Wrong
NASDAQ at this
meeting.
point. Like,
You're
we've
right.
had no
18th building
conversation.
committee.
I've seen the report.
Yeah.
Just the one report that we've
Building
gotten so
things
far.
right
That's
now.
basically all we get for our
But-
game.
18th
Right,
building
right.
committee meeting.
But there's been like we've had no discussion.
So there's no,
about
there's,
that, right?
no,
Yeah.
no, but, and then there's, what we're looking is to
nothing.
make another, a small investment
To
in some
go.
additional data.
Mhm.
And then, like a few $100s to try to figure out if their projections on enrollment match our projections on enrollment and whether, that sort of thing.
Right.
All right, so I'm gonna set the next meeting date, and you guys have, what do you have, 17th or 18th?
18th. Right, yeah,
So you have April 18th,
at 6.
It's a Thursday.
April 18th is a Thursday?
Yep.
Okay, April 18th at 6,
Mhm.
so save that one. And then you wanna set the,
Should we might as well, it starts to get really busy in the spring. Should we
April.
just set one for,
May the 16th?
just to have it in there?
May the 16th? Oh, I just set one for every day. It's not good.
Don't do that. That looks fine from a school standpoint right now. 16th.
Are we going with the 16th?
18th, let me just fix
April
this.
18th, and then May 16th.
May 16th.
And do you all want me to post, I don't know if you've been to our website recently, that is still there, the one that we have for this committee and the building work, and I can put the enrollment data up there, if that would be helpful.
Mhm.
You want me to do that?
I think you should.
Okay. And then once that's confirmed and verified with NASDAQ, we can put that up there, your information to Eric.
Do we,
Isn't the NASDAQ, that did have enrollment data, like historically
Yeah.
and projected?
Yeah.
So do you remember Eric's presentation
Yeah.
on school choice?
Oh, yeah.
And so just to recap, what happened when we gave the $80 million number, there was a lot of talk about what we're investing in, and school choice surfaced again at that time. And then folks on our survey said they just wanted, no one, I mean, there were some really positive and some really negative, but most people really just wanted to see numbers.
Mhm.
And so that was part of just community, giving the community information so they're educated. More just to really kind of help whatever project, wherever we end up, we need a yes bond vote. So just giving the community as much information as possible to get there. So that's the part where Eric did all that research and work, and then giving that to NESDEC to vet, so it's not coming from anybody who
Right.
somebody may
within-
say has a
Vested
bias.
interest.
So
Right.
it's kind of all coming from the same source, and we can give accurate information.
Because that has to definitely be obviously part of the conversation, if once that information is all vetted and it seems good, et cetera.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just was saying, so are you essentially saying you're gonna use the NESTEC data to post onto the website?
I was
with
thinking, right,
enrollments?
what we have now is the enrollment report from them, that
Mhm.
putting that, on, we have some relevant materials on the website, so on the building page, and just putting up there the NESDEC's report on
Yeah.
enrollment. That's the
Yeah.
only one we have, just if people, not that anybody's really going to that website, I don't think.
Right.
But it's there, it's like
It's there.
collectively for us,
Yeah.
it's there, you know, we can use it too.
And did you ask them, I mean, well, I'll save it, I'll wait till our next meeting to get into that, really dive into it, yeah.
Hopefully that's, for our future agenda items, is gonna be put in NESDEC.
Okay,
That's
perfect.
that's the main one for now, and that is gonna be for the, April meeting.
Do we want to schedule a June meeting?
Let's do April and May. Let me ask me that question again in May.
Or April.
So April 18th.
I mean, we can.
No, I'm just trying, I know that's part of why we scheduled so far out is
So
to,
what would June be? Let's just stick it on.
I've got a client meeting. I don't know if it's gonna be the first week or the second week of June. I'll know by next week, but we can set it.
How
yeah.
about June 20th? That's a third week.
June 20th is after school is out, so I don't know,
The first day
like
of
if people are leaving June 13th.
summer.
June 13th, as long as there's no more snow days, is the second to last day before school is out.
Stick June 13th in, then everybody put June 13th in, and then, you know, beg you to cancel it.
Theoretically.
But they've got the design options, ought to be for the May meeting.
We should have some information for May.
Right.
I would think.
Yeah.
So
And
And
we're-
then if we don't need it, we don't need it, but then it's on
We
the
have to have
calendar.
the estimates will be in August.
June 13th.
That was,
Yeah, sorry, yeah, 16th and June 13th.
So a June schedule, all right. So that's all that. Now I'm opening the floor for public input.
None at this time, but thanks for having me.
We very seldom get public. So thank you for coming.
yeah, thank you.
All right, 7:16, ready to go? Yep. Adjourned by consensus? Done. 7:16. All right, ending this meeting, I'm gonna stop recording.
Sarah. Yes, sister.